Boy Scout, and I'm going to teach you how to play a couple scales on the piano today and a couple of the basics. But first we're going to teach you some of the ins and outs of the keyboard. Alright, so the first thing I want to point out about a piano keyboard, and really I guess in music in general, is the musical letters are A through G. That's as far as they go. There's a couple other symbols on the keyboard that are good to take note of, which is the sharp and flat sign. The sharp is the sign that looks like a hashtag basically, and the flat sign looks like a lowercase b that's kind of slanty. Another thing to really take note of on the keyboard is the two different groups of the black notes. There's the group of 2 that is a C sharp and D sharp, or D flat and E flat. I'll get into that more of the difference between those two. And then the second group, which has 3 black keys, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, or G flat, A flat, B flat. Those come in handy because it breaks up the keyboard into sections. Another thing to know about the keyboard is that the A through G pattern continues to just repeat itself over and over again. So the sharps and flats I'll explain now. Anything directly to the right of a note, directly meaning the key right next to it, black or white. So if you look at C on the keyboard, the note directly to the right of it is the black key, C sharp. That's where the sharp comes from. It's like halfway between C and D. Contrary, flats are the key that's directly to the left of a key. So if you look at the D key on the keyboard, the D flat is the note that is directly to the left of D. The reason I say black or white is if you look at E on the keyboard, there is no black key between those two, so E is also known as F flat, and F is also known as E sharp. The same thing happens between C and B, where there is no black key between there. The next thing I'm going to explain to you is some of the fingerings for different scales and hand position on the keyboard. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about how you hold your hands on a keyboard is, I've always been taught you're supposed to basically pretend there's like an egg or a round ball underneath your palm. You want to keep your hands kind of raised just so that you're more graceful on the keys. Other than that, I'm going to get into how scales on a piano work. You remember me talking about how there are half steps between notes, and that's the key that's like directly next to it. So for example, this is a half step between C and C sharp, and this is also a half step between E and F, or E and E sharp, as you remember from the previous part of the video. So the formula basically for a major scale would be start, whole step, half step, whole, half step. That's your basic formula for any major scale. As you can see in a C major scale, because I start on C, it makes all white keys. It makes it really simple. The fingering that I use for that scale is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And I have this kind of tuck under method that I use for that. I'll do a slow, see how I cross under with my thumb? And then when I go back down, I cross over with my third finger. You use that for most scales. There are a few exceptions, especially when you start a scale on black keys. it can change the fingering for those notes, but the ones we're going to learn today are basically going to be those fingerings. So your C major scale, as you remember, is start, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you want to do a D scale, you're going to have to add a few of the black notes to make a whole step. So as you can see on the D scale, we have your start, whole, and then we need another whole step. So we can't just play the white key next to it because there isn't a black key between them. So we have to go up here for whole, half, whole, whole, and then you need another whole step because of the absence of a key between B and C. And another half step at the end, ending on D. Alright, so now that you know some of those basics and those two scales, we can just build on that again in our next lesson, and hopefully someday you'll become a piano virtuoso. Thank you.